So, a few of you saw a video that I put up last night that I want to do kind of a miniature condensed version of now and elaborate on one thing I mentioned because it generated a lot of interest, and that'll be the second thing I talk about. But anyway, somebody had watched that video I made on why autistic or autistic men should remain single, and had done another question, had done another response video to it, and I got way too emotionally invested in the answers that I was giving, and that's why I took it down. Suffice it to say, that person was wondering if I actually thought that men would give up on relationships altogether if I, based on my video, no, I don't think they would. And I think anything I say is obviously going to be within the larger plurality of what they're watching on YouTube and the advice they're taking and that sort of thing. But my experience, that I have to be very careful about art. I feel like I'm so inclined to start giving all these grand examples that I have that brought me to arrive at this conclusion, but suffice it to say, I no longer have on a visceral, personal level, I no longer have positive feelings about relationships at all. They just don't exist. And the little bit of good that I've gotten out of relationships, the little bit of positive memories I've gotten, is dwarfed by the awful, loathsome experiences that I've had to deal with. And I'm going to resist the urge to articulate more on that, because what happens is, I give a few examples and people try to speak to what I'm dealing with at the level of those examples, and don't know, like, there's a whole, iceberg effect. Mitzi says hi. There's a whole iceberg effect there of, like, the tip of the iceberg is what I'm talking about. You don't want to know the crazy shit I've had to deal with in this regard. There has always been, for me, on some level, this sense of contempt and the sense of disdain and pity and contempt around the subject of me even associating with women or having anything to do with them. It's always there, and it's dogged me my entire life, from junior high all the way up to the present day. Junior high being when I really, like most, started getting interested in all of that. All the way up to the present day, it's dogged me. It's always been weird and strange and pathetic and contemptible and off-putting and eerie and uncanny to people, the idea of me being involved with women. A grand example of that, and here I go again, but a grand example of that, I've been talking about the, H-Bomber guy and his fandom a lot lately, and recall that the H-Bomber guy fandom is still obsessed with the fact that I got a lap dance from a stripper almost 14 years ago. You can look at the H-Bomber Guy subreddit and find examples of them talking about this in very recent memory. This is a perfectly common occurrence. It happened at a friend's birthday party. It's a perfectly common occurrence, and it goes, these things that, millions upon millions of lap dances are performed every year. And yet, if not every day, and yet, for some reason, me doing this thing that normal men do all the time and get into all the time, for some reason, me doing that thing has been so hilarious and so ridiculous to them. Something about the way I talked about it, or the way I presented myself in that or something, but I get shit for that constantly. And so I don't understand what that is, but that's just one example. And and that goes all the way back to I can remember telling telling a couple of friends of mine in high school that there was this one girl I was interested in, and they started talking about how hard she would vomit if she knew that I was interested in her. And I remember one of them saying, like, yeah, she probably vomits so hard she'd consume her toenails and throw them up, or subsume her toenails back into her feet and throw them up, and that kind of thing. It's always just been weird and gross and pathetic, and 99% of my experiences in this regard have been weird and gross and pathetic. And so I hear what the human race is trying to tell me. I feel like people are trying to tell me, the human race is trying to tell me on a genetic level that this is wrong of me and I shouldn't be doing it. So, maybe I'm giving too much of a generalized giving too much generalized advice on something that's very specialized for me. But I know the autism plays into it. I know that I have absolutely nothing to offer a woman, and so invariably, again, what will happen as I say that is somebody will write in and say, "Don't worry, bro, we're gonna help you out. What you need to do is you need to start making some money, and you need to start hitting the gym, and you need to start reading some books, and you need to start blotting." And like they'll start laying this shit out. And it's like, dude, stop a minute. First of all, not one of those assholes has ever told me something that I didn't already know. And two, I've done about all the self-improvement I care to do. I hit the gym 3 to 5 times a week. I work hard. I work multiple jobs to bring in my income. I have a great work ethic, and I don't live at home. I support myself. I live on my own, and I am highly educated, very well read, and I have a lot of really cool, diverse interests that I'm into. I play in a band. I am working on developing my own computer game. I do all of this cool stuff with my life. I'm not some layabout that's just sitting around watching TV and playing video games all day. I don't need that advice. I do all that shit already, and it's not good enough. So if it's not good enough, fine. That's the point, and that's the thing I keep trying to get across. I don't have it in me anymore. And I can't decide, no, I don't think I can decide what the future holds for every other person. It's kind of, and one of the things I talked about in that video that I took down was that I don't like that, I don't like that people can't understand what I'm trying to say half the time. Like I saw in and this is in response to a specific person's video, and I noticed on that person's video they were saying that they thought it was incredible, or they thought it was rich that I was thinking I could decide what's best for all of these different people, for a whole community of people. And it's like, I'm not deciding that. I'm putting my opinion forward, and the only people I'm putting my opinion forward to are people who ask to hear it, which is what you're doing when you click on my video. And I don't have any time or patience for that anymore, for being chronically misunderstood, and having people constantly misunderstand what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to get across. And when I'm in relationships, it's somehow it just seems like that's the whole point of the exercise, is to like misunderstand what I'm trying to say. And so that's where I stand, and so many people are so aghast at that video. But again, the things I said in that video, and they just can't believe that I would actually have the audacity to say it, and they're just confused about this, that, or the other. And I really, that video's gotten some very good traction, and it's gotten a lot of attention to the channel and everything, but it may not be worth it. I may need to just take that video down. Because it's just, it's only generating negativity for me. And it's, talking about that tip of the iceberg, it's generated some negativity on the undersea part of the iceberg of my life that I don't talk about publicly. So it may need to be taken down. But that's it. That's the thing, is there's so much about the world I don't understand and will never understand. And it's weird because if I point out that if I try to articulate things I don't understand about the world, people assume I'm trying to be an obstinate jackass or something. And so, here I go with examples again, but I mentioned the stripper I got, years over a decade ago. So, when, one thing I don't understand is it's like men in society are expected to be able to provide for. Now, again, don't argue with me about this. We all know what I'm talking about in traditional, societies of traditional gender roles. And as I talk about this, somebody's going to write in and say, actually, those gender roles are not that traditional because they only really started to come into effect around the time of World War II. And before that, there were people like the indigenous tribes of the Farquad Fuckface Island who did everything by having the woman inseminate the man with her clitoris, and then everybody had butt babies, and they actually raised the butt babies as a commune, and things worked out a lot better. But then one of them read a copy of Atlas Shrugged, and capitalism took over, and now it's all just sweatshop labor, and it's white people's fault. But anyway, I know I'm going to get something like that, but you know what I'm talking about when I talk about traditional gender roles. Traditional gender roles, the expectation of traditional gender roles is that the man takes on the woman and pays for her life. He devotes his life to financially supporting the woman, financially supporting the children that they have together, doing all of this stuff, financially supporting financially supporting everything. That's the traditional thing. The men were expected to have been expected to provide for the family. We know the Ward and June Cleaver concept of the family. Okay, I don't understand how that's different from prostitution. I really don't. People say, well, it's different from prostitution because the woman is emotionally invested in the man. Okay, if it's about emotional investment, then he shouldn't be paying for anything. At that point, we should be going Dutch on our entire relationship. And, it's kind of like, look, man, where I'm at with relationships, hey, I make enough money to take you out on your birthday, but I'm not paying for every single goddamn thing. And if that's not good enough, tough shit. I don't need more expenses. I live very comfortably now for myself. I don't need more crap to take care of and more stuff to deal with. But I really don't understand how that's different from how that's somehow that's what a man is supposed to do. But a man paying a woman for a small amount of her time to have sex with him and leave, that's somehow contemptible. And I'm talking, of course, about somebody who is doing that of her own volition and not because she's being trafficked or something like that. For some reason, people just can't pry their tiny little fingers off that idea. But anyway, no, a consenting adult that's not being coerced. For some reason, that's contemptible, but this is not. For some reason, the behavior of that woman is contemptible, but the behavior of this woman is not. And as I'm voicing this confusion and why this doesn't make sense to me, people are hearing that and thinking that this is like trying to push some kind of red pill MRA agenda or something like that, when really I'm just articulating something I don't understand. And so that it's things like that. The world is fucking ridiculous. I'm tired of dealing with ridiculous shit. I'm tired of stumbling through this thing that everybody regards as being contemptible and pathetic and ridiculous. And I'll tell you something. One of the things that I would, last example, then I'm going to get to the game I'm developing. Anyway, one of the things that I thought about talking about at one point in one of my videos would have been sexual health, and that like I am just metronomically on top of my sexual health with STD screenings and everything. When I am sexually active, if I have sex here on this date, exactly 3 months later, I go and I get my full panel STD screening, and I have remained free of every STD on earth because of that. And I thought about giving that example in the context of a sexual health video, and I didn't do it because I just thought, if I tell people that, people are going to think it's funny and pathetic and contemptible and creepy that I do that I'm that on top of it. I don't know why. I've just developed this spider sense over the years for things that I do that people are going to think are weird and funny and contemptible. And it's just bizarre. There's just something about the way I do things that's weird to me. I'll give you, okay, I know I'm going to stop with the example. It's okay, Mitzi. She's worried for me. It's my emotional support cat. She's trying to quell the inner turmoil. But anyway, it's kind of like I can remember I can remember being in school one time for some kind of the teacher for whatever class discussion presentation he was doing. He needed to poll all of us for a collection of information. And so he wanted to know what we all had for dinner the night before. And I said that we'd had sausage, eggs, and bacon the night before. And everybody in the room there was a pause and a huh, and a stop and a turn. And I was like, well, yeah. And I mean, like everybody's now staring at me with these confused looks on their face. You ate breakfast food for dinner? And then somebody said, what did you have for breakfast this morning? And I said, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And they go, you eat peanut butter and jelly for breakfast? And it was just weird. And finally, some guy sympathetic to me says, man, y'all know Jordan's weird. And they all let it go, and we went back to what we were doing. That comes to mind. It's just the thing of like, I've gotten used to in my life. Now, surely eating breakfast food for dinner is not that odd. It's something people do from time to time. My mom even has a breakfast food casserole that she makes for dinner sometimes that's phenomenal. I want to get the recipe and start making it. But surely that's not that odd. And but everybody just regards everything I do as weird and odd and strange, or at least not everything, but enough that I kind of have this awareness of like, there are some things that are just weird and odd and strange about me, and one of those things has always been relationships. And it's just weird and odd and strange that anybody, that anybody would want to date me or have a relationship with me or go out with me or have anything to do with me. And people that are sympathetic to me worry about me when I get into those things. Nobody ever gets positive about me being in a relationship. They're always just worried for my well-being, mainly because they know how many times I've fallen flat on my face and gotten involved with bad people. So, yeah, that's where it's at. And this video that video I made seems to be ruffling a lot of feathers. So hopefully I've been real enough with you now that you understand where I'm coming from. I don't know what the future holds for you or anybody else. I just know what I've needed to do. I know that I've had so much negativity that I I just can't do it anymore, man. And the you know, I remember a while back I got stood up for a date with this girl, um, and I got stood up, and on the one hand I felt dejected because of it, but on the other hand there was just tremendous relief. Like, it's funny, I was not looking forward to it at all. I was just dreading it with wondering why I did it in the first place, with every fiber of my being. Uh, so anyway, I don't know what's going on with me, uh, but I no longer have. I used to think that I wanted relationships and all of that stuff, and I don't anymore because I understand and I know that it's weird, creepy, and contemptible. And I now find my own desires and urges as weird and creepy and contemptible as everybody else does. To the friends and everything that reached out to me after seeing that first video, thank you. I really do appreciate that. I realize that this probably, maybe what I've said here may be upsetting to a lot of you, and I don't. I feel like I do feel like an attention whore, trying to, talking about these things, and that's one of the reasons I need to discipline myself not to. But that's where I'm coming from. I appreciate your concerns. I should not, maybe not wear my problems on my sleeve like I do. But anyway, but I do really appreciate the kind words I got from various people. I do appreciate that. Anyway, more excitingly, moving on, I did mention in that video that I was developing a computer game. People were asking questions about that. Right now I will say, first of all, this is a project that I came up with for myself to teach myself how to use Adventure Game Studio, which is some design software I've always wanted to learn how to use. And so I'm working on it right now. I've been working on it for about a year, and that has been, I've had long lapses in productivity because it's life and whatnot has gotten in the way, but with just life events and stuff like that. But I'm doing a lot of work on it now, and I've got my programming skills are such that I can just kind of I've got the basic game mechanics worked out, and so I can just keep building and building and building on the game, and I haven't had to stop and teach myself or learn anything for a while now, so I've had a lot of productivity. I'm about to have to start learning how to program dialogue trees, so that's going to be a new challenge. But anyway, what I'm working on. I don't want to say too much about it yet, but it's a point and click adventure game in the classic style, and those are my, the Sierra LucasArts games and everything. Those are my favorite games from way back. The golden era of all of that is just kind of always been my favorite games, and I always wanted to make my own games, and always knew that if I did, I didn't want to make, the latest Half-Life clone or the latest Call of Duty clone or something like that. I wanted to do, as much as I love those games, I wanted to do point and click adventures. Those have always had a special place in my heart, so that's what I'm working on. And I'm working on, I had to learn how to code for all of the basic gameplay mechanics of, basic things like moving from this room to that room, building the inventory, how to put objects into the inventory and take them out and combine them in the inventory, coding for things like that. And what's great about Adventure Game Studio is that it's very much set up for those things. So a lot of it, you can tell it, like, if you say, this hotspot here can be clicked on, then it has a drop-down menu of common things you can do with that. Common reasons why someone would click on a hotspot to go to another room, to trigger an animation or something like that. So these things, it's got a lot of pre-coded scripts and that sort of thing that you can start to use. And then, as my understanding of scripting is improved, I've gotten to where I can just go into the scripting file and start writing my actual code, and once the code is written, come back and just plug all of that into the screen that I'm working on, that I'm developing it on and everything. And so, like I said, yeah, it's a point-and-click adventure. Right now, what I've got, after a year of learning and programming, I've got something that takes me about 10 minutes to speed run. Someone who, I would think someone who doesn't know doesn't know where to go, what to do, and the solutions to the puzzles, and where all the inventory items are hidden and everything, would probably take them, 20 to 30 minutes to figure it all out. And then right now I've got some things that are, things that if you played it right now would look like dead ends or red herrings, but then they're set up to pay off way later in the game. And I definitely want it to be one of those confounding things where it's like, I flip this switch and then I find out if I flipped it to the right position 2 hours later, that kind of thing. I want it to be one of those games where you have to really keep track of what you're doing across the entire environment. So that's where it's at. Obviously, I'm going to write my own music for it. Obviously, I'm writing my own story for it and everything. I don't want people to get too excited because I may decide not to put it out at all. This is not like an album where I have a lot of confidence around my ability to do it, or a track record of doing it. I've never done this before, but if I do decide to release it, I'll certainly put it out on Steam and GOG for a very reasonable amount of money. I would think I'm going to charge, maybe $5 for this. Obviously, I'm not going to go AAA price bracket for this or anything. I wouldn't expect people to pay that much for it. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun, and it's really it's a really fun, enjoyable process. And what I've learned from this is how much of programming and how much of scripting language and developing a game really is figuring it out in the moment. Because like I'll go on the forums for Adventure Game Studio, on the beginners forums, and there's great people on there, and I'll say, okay, so I've got this puzzle that I'm trying to do, this like a combination lock puzzle, or a button grid or something like that, where you have to compute what's going on, that kind of thing. So I've got this puzzle, and I need it to work in this way, and I'll get like 3 or 4 people that have written different types of scripts for how you could do it. So there's very much more than one way to skin a cat in this regard. I hate that metaphor, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so that's the more exciting, more positive part of it. I have an early day tomorrow, but I'm going to try to do a little bit of programming before I go to bed, and that's a lot of fun, and that gets me excited. I love, tomorrow night I will get. I'm eating fish twice a week now, as well as taking fish oil supplements, and so tomorrow night I will get bourbon dipped salmon from the grocery store and chicken fettuccine Alfredo, and I want to start making my own Alfredo, but I'm just doing the Stouffer's right now. But I'll combine Stouffer's with cooking my own salmon, which I love doing, and doing that while watching Game Grumps. And then I will sit down and I will enjoy that, and then I will sit down and work on, well, actually I have some work to do tomorrow night, but hopefully I'll finish before, I'll finish with enough time to actually do my work on my game. But anyway, that's what's exciting to me right now. That's what gives me positive vibes. I haven't had some offers from people to play test the game, and yeah, I'd love to have you do that. Right now, I'm definitely able to test what I've got so far. It's the mechanics are pretty easy to go through. But anyway, so that's what's happening, and I don't want to say too much about the story or the premise of the game or the world it's set in or the interface or things like that too much yet. If I get to a point where I want to share more with you guys, I will. So anyway, that's where I stand. So I should end more of my videos talking about the progress I'm making on my game, because that definitely pulls me back around from being in the doldrums. Anyway, peace.